Welcome to Brother Owl's Garden. I'm Brian, and I honor your presence here. Thanks for stopping by. Today, I would like to offer two testimonials that are derived from my own direct personal experience in the field of Reiki. There's nothing more powerful than your own direct personal experience for reaffirming and convincing you that something is real. You can listen to somebody else talk about it, but it's far more powerful when it is your direct experience, because then you just know when you know. Now, I've had my master's certification in the Usui Tibetan School of Reiki for 2 years. I have several clients, most of whom I do remote Reiki sessions for. People call it distance Reiki. I call it remote Reiki. And occasionally an online session and an in-person session. Now, during the process of my being trained and attuned and certified at the master level of performing Reiki, there were some times when I had to stop and ask myself, hold on now, do I really believe this? And should I really believe this? Is this absolutely for real? Is this legitimate and authentic? And is it effective? Now, I have heard stories of other people that I could share with you, but I'm only going to tell you my two stories in this video. The first one that happened, well, first of all, I should say I was not able to quantify the effects of Reiki in order to answer those questions for myself. But then I had two experiences. I had two experiences as the conduit of Reiki and as the recipient of Reiki. And so I got to see Reiki working from both sides. And it is for that reason that those questions have been put to rest in my world. The first experience I had was about a year and a half ago. I fell ill. I fell really ill. It was awful. I'm pretty sure it was dengue. And if you've ever had dengue, don't. So it was awful. It was at the point where I could not move my body to the bathroom. It was terrible. Everything was just, I had no energy left at all. I was drinking dozens and dozens of bottles of water and like Gatorade drinks per day, and I could not even get hydrated, let alone stay hydrated. It was awful. You get the point. I was aching all over, and I had a terrible migraine, like really terrible ocular migraine. And I realized, well, oh gosh, what am I doing? I'm a certified Reiki practitioner. Of course I can give Reiki to myself. That was the theory in my mind. In reality, physically, I just couldn't do it. I was just too sick. I couldn't do it. And so I said, well, wait a minute. I've got 5 or 6 trusted friends who are at various levels of certification in the field of Reiki. I'm going to send a group text asking for help from all of them right now. And I, as nicely as I could, I asked them, I said, I'm in serious pain. I'm suffering greatly to the extent that I can't give myself Reiki. No matter what you're doing, the first chance you get, would you please give me even just a little bit of Reiki? I desperately need help. Please help me. The response was incredible. Every single one of them responded within about 10 minutes, and within 15 or 20 minutes, I was receiving Reiki from all of them at the same time. Remote Reiki. Now, you could say, oh, well, that's in your mind. It just made you feel good because you knew that. Except that, get ready for this, I saw the Reiki. I saw it. I'm not extremely experienced with seeing with your third eye, so to speak, so I'm just going to say that it is my very strong belief that that is the way that I saw it. My 2 physical eyes were open as I lay in bed, and then they were closed, and I could see it in both ways. And when I closed my eyes, I could see it better. When I closed my eyes, I saw Again, words fail, but I'll try to do it. Imagine an array of pastel rainbow colors flowing in sort of an undulating tubular stream. And it was coming from up there, from my perspective. And it was coming down to me in a stream that was sort of alive. It was pastel rainbow colors flowing in a tubular shape that undulated and flowed into my head, through my eyes. Now, I said when I was in agonizing pain, ocular migraine was the most agonizing pain that I was experiencing at the time. That's where the Reiki was going into. It was going into specifically my right eye. I was able to see this, I believe, with the intuitive eye, the third eye, which I always think should be called the first eye, by the way. But anyway, so I could literally see it, and not only feel it, but physically see it happening and working. It was astonishing. My mouth fell open. I was amazed. And I thought, well, never going to doubt this again. Not going to question this again. I'm not saying I understand it, but there it is. I'm looking at it working on me. And I felt its healing power. Imagine that I was a hot, aching brick of pain. And the Reiki was like cool breezes and mists upon me, like this. It wasn't like instantaneously, but it came in and poured itself into me, or it was conveyed into me, however the right words to say would be. And I watched it for several moments. And not only that, but at the same time that this pastel rainbow flow of Reiki energy was coming into my body through my eye, which is where the worst pain in the ocular migraine was happening. I also saw on 2 occasions, when somebody blows a smoke ring, poof, and it just kind of goes out like that? I saw 2 dark, shadowy, kind of dark-hued smoke ring, energetic smoke rings just kind of out of my right eye. They just went out. And 2 times I remember seeing this. And as all this was happening, the pain was steadily reducing. And I would say that receiving Reiki from those Reiki practitioner friends all at the same time created enough power that I was able to see it. I would never tell somebody, hey, maybe you're going to see it. You're almost certainly not. But in that situation, somehow, I was given the gift of being able to see it. Maybe so that I wouldn't doubt it anymore. I don't know. But I saw it. It was real. I watched it working. I felt it working. I don't question it anymore. I'm not claiming to be able to describe it to you and understand it in any greater terms, but that's enough. When you experience it, that's enough. So, that was the experience of being a recipient of Reiki. The second experience happened not long ago. By now you've met my little cat Lotus. This one's a little bit difficult. About 9 days after she first entered my life, and everything was wonderful and cute, and, kitten jumping all over the place, kind of a world, she suddenly and swiftly fell gravely ill, as if a curtain had been pulled over her. It was very traumatizing. I will not go into the whole story about that, but it was very traumatizing. I found it extremely difficult to deal with, and it was one of those cases where you're humbled when there's so much that and you realize about things, but in the moment you kind of just throw it out the window and you just go with, this is how I'm feeling. It was bad. I was watching her slowly but steadily die in front of me for a period of 4 days. I took her to the veterinarian 4 times. At this point, I was in a panic. Nobody knew. The medical doctor did not know what was wrong with her. We didn't know if it was a virus, a bacteria, an infection. We didn't know. Again, I'm not going to tell you the whole story about that, but I'll just say that it was not physical, the cause. It was not physical. I found out in the midst of it what was causing it, and it was worse than physical. Maybe you can intuit what I'm getting at, but I don't want to get into that in this video. And it was clear that she was in the process of absolutely dying. So after 4 days of this, finally, I was falling apart. I was monitoring her 24 hours a day. I was not sleeping. I was getting frazzled. And I don't handle things like that as well as I wish that I did. And it was Sunday night, the 4th day. I had taken her to the vet for the 4th time. And it was about 6 p.m. And I said, if I don't take a nap and get a little bit of sleep, I'm going to crack. Like, I'm at my end, the end of my capacity here. But I was terrified because she was just falling and falling and falling. And I estimated her to be at approximately 10% life force at this point, maybe less. And I said, I don't know what to do. If I don't sleep, I can't take care. I'm gonna need to be taken care of. So I have to at least sleep for a couple of hours. So what I did is I put her on a pillow right next to my head right here, and I passed out. And that was about 6 o'clock. And 2 hours later, I had what I call a soul jolt, where you could say the spirit was quickened. On a soul level, I was jolted awake and alert because of an emergency. That's not the first time that's happened to me in my life. It might be the 4th or 5th time. But this was really powerful and clear, and it was obvious that it was Lotus. And as soon as that happened, I turned to her and I said, Lotus, Lotus. And I tried to pet her and, see how she's doing. And she didn't open her eyes. And, this is my beloved little kitten. This is very difficult. This is 4 days of struggling, and now I just took a nap because I was going to crack if I didn't. And I jolted awake to find her not responsive. So I touched her gently, and she did not respond. She didn't open her eyes. Then I looked at her chest and stomach. She was not breathing. So my heart began to sink. My heart began to sink. It just sank. And I nudged her with my hand like, hey, come on. What's going on? This can't be happening. And when I nudged her with my hand, her entire body moved as one, as if it were a shoebox or something. She had rigor mortis. Rigor mortis only happens after death. So this was an extremely vulnerable moment for me. This was not one of my shining moments of power and strength. And I just about died in that moment. But as soon as I just about died, something in me lunged up and said, no! This is not the way this story ends. And I never spoke with such conviction in my life. And man, did I mean it. And I began to pray and to summon and call upon my entire soul tribe and any spirit who loves, cares for, looks after, and helps me. Get on this now. I need all of us on this now. I prayed to God so powerfully. When you pray, don't ever pray as if God is there. God is there. Not as if he's there. So I prayed as hard and powerfully and with as much faith and unbridled power as I could muster, and I launched into her with Reiki. And when I say I launched in, what I mean is I didn't say, let's put some Reiki. No. I went into lightning coming out of my fingers, torrential Reiki mode. And at the same time, I chanted holy and powerful prayers, simple ones. So please don't misunderstand. I'm not saying, oh, look what I did. I did this. Me. No, I'm not saying that. But I did do everything that I could as to my share, my contribution to the process. I was on it. But everything else contributed and made it happen. I did it for 2 hours. But before I get ahead of myself, within about 3 minutes, Lotus started to come back. And she started to move and opened her eyes, and she was back. And I continued relentlessly, torrents of Reiki, while praying as powerfully as I could over her. And she came back. At that moment, as you can imagine, I was crying tears of ecstasy, of ecstatic joy. When that happened, I said, no, this is not the timeline that I choose. I choose the timeline where Lotus recovers fully to her fullness of health and lives happily ever after the full lifetime of her existence together with me. But you want to talk about a challenge of faith. Whew. But look what happened. And Reiki supercharged her along with that powerful prayer to the extent that she came back to life. I can't be certain, but my theory, you may have heard it said, I've heard it said that our soul is tethered to our body by a silver cord. I don't know if this is factually true, literally true, metaphorically true, or totally untrue. I don't know for sure. But if that is something that we could envision, that our soul is bound to our earth suit by a silver cord, let's just say there's a definite connection to it. What I think is the best answer I could come up with for how this happened is that Lotus, her soul, the soul that is Lotus, had left that body, but had not yet broken off. I think had it broken off, she may not have been able to be brought back. So I think that what happened was she died and began to leave her body entirely, and was probably at that point of tautness when I received a soul jolt, perhaps from my soul tribe, or perhaps from my higher self knowing. I don't know. Doesn't matter. I received it, jumped up, responded immediately, and was able, by the grace of Spirit, to bring her back. Because she wanted to be with me. Had she not wanted to be, that would have also been the end of it. She would have left. Had she wanted to leave and had that cord snapped before I had gotten to her, she'd be gone. I don't doubt Reiki anymore. I don't claim to be able to explain it scientifically for the ego intellect to be satisfied, which, by the way, it never is. But I don't need any more to question. I have been the recipient of miraculous Reiki that I saw. And I have been the conveyor, the conduit of miraculous Reiki that I witnessed bring a soul back. This is why I don't question Reiki anymore. And it has empowered and reinforced my conviction of Reiki, which I am sure also has a direct bearing on the efficacy of the Reiki that I conduct when I do Reiki sessions. I believe that our inner state, our own conviction and faith, is the linchpin. It is the pivot point of whether something works or not. If you happen to remember the parable of when Yeshua, Jesus, was walking in the throngs of people, crowds, mobs of people all around him, because by this point he was popular and well known. He was thronged by these mobs, and as he's walking through, and his disciples are all around him, he's walking through, and suddenly he stops and he says, "Who touched me?" And he looks down, and there on the ground is the woman who was afflicted with a terrible menstrual bleeding for, I think it was 12 years of her life, which especially in that culture would have been unbelievably horrible. And so she was bleeding and therefore was profoundly outcast in that culture for 12 years. This would have been like someone with Hansen's disease being scorned and outcast by society. And he said, "Who touched me?" And he looked down, and there she was, and she said, "It was me. I touched your robe." "Why did you touch my robe?" "Because I knew that if I could just touch your robe, I would be healed." And what did Yeshua say to her in response? Did he say, "You know what? I'm in a good mood. I'm going to take care of you. You're going to be fine. I'm going to heal you. Here we go"? He didn't say that. He didn't even mention himself at all. He said, "Woman, your faith has made you well." Well, I have faith in Reiki because of the way that I implement it, which may be different from some other people. In fact, I'm sure it is, because I know there's a lot of variations on how it's done. But I know that the way that I implement it is pure and aligned with divinity and effective, and I don't need to question it anymore. I have faith in it, and that may be the reason why it works. But all I know is it does. So I've shared with you my two personal testimonial, direct personal experiences with Reiki. I hope that you have found them meaningful, and I hope that they have an influence on your understanding of Reiki as well. That's all I've got for today. Thank you for stopping by Brother Owl's Garden, and always remember to abide in thankfulness for your highest good in the most benevolent outcome of the divine will.